Good evening, and welcome to episode 24 of Ask Andrew Anything on email marketing. Okay, as you know, if you can see, you know, I am Andrew Huang. it's bit today is bit off, but anyways, I appear basically at Shop Live every Wednesday and at 9. The idea is to provide a free service to help you understand and also answer some of your questions related to email marketing. And because I think there are, although there are a lot of resources on email and the value of email marketing and all, I think for somebody who is running a business, sometimes this sort of information could be a bit more overwhelming. So I decided to basically do 30 minutes live every week and to basically answer specific questions so that you get your answers and you do whatever you need to do with your business and move on. All right. So with that, I'm going to quickly share and let me share this screen. Okay, there you go. All right. So what I do is I help businesses build deeper relationships with their prospects and also customers through emails. And the idea of doing so is that once you have developed that know, like, and trust, selling becomes a lot more effortless. Right? You don't really have to do a lot of hard sell because you know your audience, you understand their needs, and you understand their requirements. For example, it's a matter of taking them or offering them a pathway to take them to the next level. Okay, so that's the concept, or that's the idea behind the value of email marketing. Okay, so should I go? Let me see. Why is it not moving? So, like I say, I appear live primarily because of you, to help you answer questions related to the email marketing. Let me see if I miss out anything. Okay, there you go. And if you have any questions related to emails, then you can basically go to this particular site, ants.digital / ask Andrew anything. Or if you have a phone with you now, you can actually scan your phone and it will lead basically to a simple Google form, which allows you to just put in your emails, your email address, and also your question. And then, I will review this and I'll answer them the following week. All right. Simple as that. Nothing fancy, as straightforward as it is. Okay. If you like to connect with me or you like to know more about me, you can follow me on LinkedIn. I primarily spend more time on LinkedIn, and because that's where my customers are, or that's where my prospects are. And because I handle clients in the B2B and also the B2C space, right? So go to LinkedIn, and this is the URL, a short URL, ants.digital / LinkedIn. You link into my profile. You can tap on the follow page, follow me page, or you can tap on the bell icon if you want to be notified whenever I post any content related to email marketing. Okay, right. I just noticed that I didn't change the footer at the bottom, but anyways, that's fine. And if you want to get more free resources, go to this particular page. I have basically two newsletters, one on B2B and one to B2C, because the emails method and the strategies are different, right? This must be Chiwai. Hi, how are you, man? How are you? Right. So no obligations. If you like what you see and you want to subscribe to it, by all means. And as always, as in email marketing, if it's not suitable for you, you can always unsubscribe, and we can still be friends. All right. Okay. So this is a very, I won't say it's basic, but I think it's a common question that when you have your email marketing, how do you actually grow your list? Okay, because the beauty part is with emails, you're actually collecting first party data. That means data that you own. When you have followers on social media, for example, those data, you don't own them. All right, it's basically owned by the platform, and they can, as they've proven many times, they can basically kick you out for whatever violations or they did or they think that you may have committed, and that's it. And I've got friends, I've got clients who got locked out and they can't do anything about it. They can't reach out to, there's no way to instant message, there's no way to make a post, right? So the idea is with emails, you actually now get to collect all this data within from hive all this data from your social media, and basically create your own community, which you can then reach out to them anytime you want. You can send one email a day if you want to. You can send two, three emails a day if you want to. It's entirely up to you. All right. And nobody can shut you down. I mean, even if your ESP decides not to work with you, they will allow you to download your email list, and you can actually move them to another email service provider, and you can continue and start, right? As long as you're not in the spamming business, you're fine. No ASP will want to lose your money, okay? And as long as you don't send stuff that people don't like, and there's a lot of spam complaints, then you're safe. All right. So that's the purpose. And so if you want to grow your list, there are a few things that you need to do. All right. Or there are a few categories or few possible areas. Number one is, obviously, if you're in business, you will have customers or purchases. And, you should have their contact details. At the very least, you should have their email address, right? Because otherwise, you can't send their invoices or send the receipts to them, anyways. So once you have that, why don't you move them as your subscribers? And it's a lot more easier to communicate with them because they've done business with you, right? They know you already. And obviously, they trust you. Otherwise, they don't give you their money to you. So this is probably the best category of subscribers that you may have, right? You don't have to go through the whole cycle of introducing yourself and all those things because they already bought into your story. Whichever ways, or they believe you're the right person to solve their problems. That's why they give you their money. All right. So customers or purchasers, that's one. Number two is, if you're like me or a lot of other businesses, if you do webinars. Okay, let me write this nicely. The writing is a bit off. If you're doing webinars, obviously you need to register. So if you do it through Zoom, you can collect the email addresses from Zoom and or any other platforms. You would have that, right? Because otherwise they can't be able to register. So this information can then be added to your list to grow your list, right? Now, the two key things that you need to be aware of is this. There are people who sign up and obviously attend your webinar, right? That's one group. There's another group who sign up that they say they want to show up, but did not attend or did not show up. Okay, so no show. Let's make it simple. So it's a no show, right? Now, these two categories of users, for those who sign up and attend, all right, assuming they go through your entire webinar, stay on to your entire webinar, they would understand, they will see how you speak and all those things. They will know you better. So the kind of emails you send will be, you can even bypass the welcome series, for example. All right, you can have just one email to introduce, to remind them how you got their emails, and then you can then proceed with providing contents related to why they attend the webinar. Right now, those who did not, you have to go through a bit more steps, in a sense that you need to introduce because they have not seen you. They sign up, they showed an interest about whatever you want to say, but they didn't show up. All right, so you may want to do a quick introduction and then send them a replay. Okay, so from there, and then move them into your normal nurturing sequence and all those things, right? So these are two small little difference when it comes to webinar or when it comes to events or virtual events that you do. Okay, now obviously number three is you have events, right? So if they show up, either is in-person event or virtual. I think now most companies are moving back into in-person, which is great. And that allows a lot more, that human touch to be seen. So that's one way of collecting addresses, because they are there, right? They would have heard about you. They would have, unless you are just one of the conference members or conference attendees, then your email introduction would then have to do a quick background as to how you got their email. Okay, so that is one way of doing it. This is how you can grow it. Now, if you don't have all this, then obviously you would, at the very least, you would have your social media accounts, right? So now in your social media accounts, you would do, I would assume you would do regular posting, all right? So it depends, either daily or whatever it is, you will have post content on it. So if those content are designed to basically educate or to share about what you do, for example, you can always add a link to your basically to a sign up page for them to sign up for your newsletter. All right, that's one way of growing it. So when you're continuing using social media, because social media is open, all right, so anybody who happens to chance upon your profile, for example, they will read it, or either somebody may have forwarded it, for example, whatever ways they come in, they read the content, and over time, if they find that, hey, this person's content is useful and I want to learn more, or I want to be notified, for example, aside from social media, you can then invite them to join as your subscriber, or join your newsletter. And that's how, and you do it constantly. Remember now, or for that matter, the idea if you build something great, people will come, ain't gonna happen because there's just too many competition, right? So whatever you do, whether you want to have a newsletter or you want to create a landing page or your own website, you need to promote, you need to market it. All right, that's just the way they are. You know, I mean, the last time we checked, there's about a billion plus websites that's being created. You know, and about 7 or 8 every second, for example. So the competition is high. Okay, and so that's why you need to then promote. And if you do not run ads, for example, and all those things, then in your social media, you should then promote your newsletter. Right. So that's one way of growing it. The last one is basically if you write articles, you can actually then invite them to join your newsletters. You can do a pop-up, for example, on your blog articles, for example, or you can have a section below and say if you want to have, you can give them an upgraded content, right? So you can do, for example, in blogs, for example, you have, let's say, tier 1 content, which is basically general, right? Then you say, hey, by the way, I have something called, a bit more detail. And in order to get this, you then need to join my newsletter. Okay, that's one way of pitching it. Okay, so if they find value in your tier 1 or basically your general content, and you say, hey, I want to know more, I want to look at steps, or you want to provide, let's say, for example, video content beyond your blog articles, and it's only available for subscribers or your newsletter, even if it's free. All right, even if it's free, then you can then invite them to join. So to recap, these are generally the five ways for you to actually grow your list, right? So number one, obviously, is customers or purchasers. Those are so-called, I would start this because these are the customers that you can go back to them to get them to buy more or buy more frequently. All right. So and obviously because they know you, so the so-called the resistance or the barrier to actually get to them is a lot more lower. Right. Number two is if you do webinars, you do live events, for example, and then you can actually collect the email address, and you will now you want to basically start sending relevant content, as a follow-up to your event that you do, for example, and then get them into your list, get them used to receiving content or basically emails from you, right? Number three, especially now when the countries or everybody is opening up, so events or live events, that's one way of doing it. Either you're hosting it or you're attending it. So if you're attending as a conference attendee, for example, then when you collect email address, if you do face-to-face, you can always ask them for permission. Or not, then in your email, you can then basically, the first email you send is to remind them, this is how you got their email address, and this is what you're going to do. And if you no longer wish, for example, to receive emails from me, then you can always unsubscribe. So do it on the first email. So give them a chance to basically decide, before you become a nuisance in their inbox, right? And number four, if you do social media posts, which everybody would have a social media account, then you can always mention about your newsletter, or basically give them a reason why they should give you their email address in exchange for what, right? In exchange for more exclusive content, or in exchange for new updates, for example, that they may not get anywhere else, and which have proven that you are the authority. For example, when you do your post, then that's one way of collecting. And finally, either you do blog or articles, right? Now, even for example, in YouTube, if you're in a YouTuber, for example, then in your description you could also mention that for example, to get them to subscribe because you have other contents related to what you shared, right? So the other one is obviously number 6 is YouTube, right? Or any other medium. So as long as you run an email list, you constantly want to look at ways which you can collect email address and then move them into a sequence, move them into your email list, for example, and then start sending emails. At least make sure that at the very least, make sure that they are relevant, right? The contents are relevant to them, and you would then over time grow your subscriber list. Okay, Hussein, I hope this is useful. Let's move on to the next one. Zach, let me get a drink. Okay, what is list hygiene? Um, let me put it in layman. You have following up for example, like in Hussein's case, he wants to grow his list, right? And in Zach's case, what is list hygiene? So now you would have a list of email addresses, let's say inside your ESP database. Okay, and then you start sending emails. So what you have is you have a certain percentage of your list who will engage with your email. Obviously, a certain percentage, if they engage, they will click, right? And some of them will become customers. Then you have the others, right? Let's say, let's do this, who do not open your email, right? But they didn't unsubscribe. They just don't open your emails. Or the other one is they open but did not click. Okay. Well, when they open an email and did not click, that's fine. Probably the content you have or the CTA you have may not be strong enough, or it's not convincing enough for them to click to move on to to whatever content you want to share with them. That's fine. But if you want to address, but what I want to focus on is to address those who did not open. All right. Now, in your ESP, and a good thing why you should use an ESP instead of just sending broadcast email, let's say through your Gmail and all those things, is because ESPs allows you to monitor, X number of days or months where, there are certain group of subscribers, for example, this group, who did not open your emails for 30, 45, or 60 days or even 90 days. Okay. Now, these are the group of people. So depending on, on your preference, normally it's set at 60, 30, 45 days. Okay, 30, 45, 60, or 90 days, depending on your tolerance. You may want to then every 60 days or every 30 days, clean up or remove the subscribers who have not opened your emails, right? Now, if you send emails on a daily basis, 30 days will be pretty much that soft spot. 30 days to 45 days will be a nice soft spot for you to pretty much decide, if you send daily and they don't even open one email over the last 30 or 45 days, very likely that, they are not interested in your content, right? Or basically they sign up for something and that's all they want and they're not interested in the rest of it. So it is advisable for you to then remove or clean up this list, right? So now this is what you call list hygiene. You constantly need to manage or maintain your list to make sure that those who are active are the ones that you want to keep and continuing to send to them, because it will affect this, what you call a deliverability. Okay, let me see whether I can spell this on Bility. There you go. Okay. Anyway, I got it wrong. Lity, right? Because when you're sending emails out and to people who are engaged, that's great. But if you're sending emails to people who don't engage, okay, let me try this drawing. Right? Then the ESPs will basically mark you as, potentially a spammer because you're sending to people who don't interact. So that would affect your deliverability. That will affect your sending domain reputation, for example. And before you know it, most of your emails or a large part of your emails will be ended up in spam or junk folder. all right? Because you're deemed to have a bad reputation. So by virtue of you removing this group who did not open, you actually fix this area. Okay, so this is what generally you call list hygiene. Obviously there are other tactics. For example, that you clean your list using, tools like email validation list, for example, or so-called the services that actually validates those emails, whether they are active or whether they are basically, some of them may have just typed in the wrong address, right? For example, gmail.com without an L, for example. It's not intentional. It's a genuine mistake, but when you put through this list to clean up, then all this will be surfaced and you can actually remove them or either basically update the email so that the correct one goes in and then you can continue to set, right? So having a list hygiene and basically is primarily to help you make sure that your email deliverability remains high and you're sending emails to people who really want to receive and read and interact with your emails. All right. That's at the very core, that's as simple as it is. Okay. Yeah, let me see. Are there any online tools or sites you recommend to clean up your used to use 1 years ago? Totally forgot. There are a few. I personally use this list. I can't remember the name. Okay, let me see. What you want to do is let me see. Let me find the. Okay, you can try, for example, services like Zero Bounce. Okay, or you just do a Google search for clean email list cleaning or email list validation, right? This is a keyword. Okay, let me write this on. Okay, so you can try. I'm not affiliated with them. I just basically found them online. Zerobounce.net. All right. So if you want, you can just basically look for this keyword, email list validation, or all right. So generally, two keywords will allow you to see a huge list of basically providers that's available. Okay, where's my StreamYard? Okay, there you go. All right, and basically you then decide based on the rate they charge. Some are as low as 0.002 cent per email address and all those things. The good thing about doing this, especially if you're starting new, when you're starting your new ESPs and you say, hey, I've gathered a long list of email addresses and I want to start sending, don't do that first. Put it through a list cleaning service like this, and then to make sure that those only valid emails go into your list before you send, right? So that's the first thing. And that's what normally I do with my clients. Before we actually set up or start sending emails, the first thing first is we actually clean up the list first, put it through a service like this before we upload them and to send. All right. So you want to study it right so that when you build momentum and sending up, and it becomes a lot more easier. Then obviously there are other tactics like double opt-ins to make sure that the person who who gives you their email address is actually right, because they have to click the second email in order to be accepted inside. So those are the tactics that's available that you can deploy to make sure that end of the day only valid emails enter your list. Right. So, Zach, I hope that I've answered your questions. Let me see. I don't have your name. So, okay, anyways, I need tools. What else do I do? Just to clean up fake, non-active. Yes, yes. Right. So a tool like this, email list validation, these are basically tools that's available that you can do. Yes, email validation do basically just to do spring cleaning. Right. You should, every 6 months, clean it up, right? Sometimes you miss, sometimes when you're sending, if you don't, especially if you don't turn on double opt-ins, you will find a situation like this, okay? Or maybe they've moved on, right? Maybe the email no longer in use. That's fine, okay? You are most welcome. I don't know your name. I'm not going to go to Facebook. I hope, I've answered your questions. Jeremy, what is ESP? Is this referring to platforms like, yes, Jeremy, ESP stands for email service provider, and or email marketing services or email marketing platforms. Basically, yes, Aweber, MailerLite, MailChimp, that's what you call ESPs, right, Jeremy? Yes, Jeremy, what is this referring to platforms like, yes, Jeremy, ESP stands for email service provider, and or email marketing services or email marketing platforms. Basically, yes, Aweber, MailerLite, MailChimp, that's what you call ESPs, right, Jeremy? Oh, it's Chiwai. Okay, cool. Sorry, I don't know why you don't show up, but anyways. So, Zach, I hope I've answered your questions in a very simplistic way. But generally, emails are simple. It's not complicated. It's basically thinking as a channel which you use to genuinely communicate with your users, with your community. That's all. And if you do it right, the rest of the tactics are quite straightforward. Okay. Now, I want to use this opportunity. Thank you guys for basically showing up. I want to use this opportunity. I recently just launched this, and it was done. Actually, it was created in less than 24 hours. All right, and it's a culmination of the work that I've done with my clients. It is called. Oh wait, actually, I've used this. Let me clear this one up. There you go. So it is called One Campaign Challenge. Essentially, it's a done for you service. All right. And the idea is when you launch a campaign, when you want to sell something, right? Um, the emails alone is not good enough because it's just one so-called component in your marketing mix, right? So because I've worked with my clients with emails and eventually they want to launch some stuff, then I eventually go into managing the ads, for example, and then creating the landing page, for example, and then use emails to do follow-up and all those things. So I've decided to combine all this experience I have into a single package whereby I would write your ads copy because that's where you generate traffic coming in. All right. And from there, obviously, you write your ads has to go to somewhere, right? So it goes to a landing page. And landing page is where you do your pitch, your offers, for example. And from there, not everyone is going to buy, right? Maybe a small percentage would do, especially if they know you. But what if you're running ads to a cold audience? And obviously, or you may have your promise may be attractive enough and they may like it, but they may not make a decision immediately. All right. So you want to then use, for example, an email sequence. Now, how do you collect emails? Back to the first thing that we talk about growing your list. We could do a webinar, for example. We could get them to sign up a particular form to get, lead magnets or lead contents, for example. And from there, we can then send them to a landing page. So the entire strategy needs to be thought out depending on what you sell and the type of offers that you have. All right. So from email sequence, obviously, then you can then, since you have social media, you then use social media posts, for example, to drive more traffic. So this whole entire sequence, all right, this whole entire sequence will be basically done for you for one campaign. The reason why is, you want to try one campaign to make sure that it's working, and then you can scale for the rest. All right. Because I'm doing this alone personally for you, it's going to take a fair bit of time. So that's why we want to focus on just one campaign. So it's called one campaign challenge. And for more details, now this is the same thing. So if I'm writing an email, I will probably use the first sequence what I've described just now in the email. And then what's my CTA? My CTA is then to go to this onechallenge.nsdigital.com, which is my landing page. And from there, you can read the pitch you have, and then you can take further action from there. So it's similar in that sense if you do emails. But this one campaign challenge is to try and attempt to deliver an end-to-end service entirely for your one campaign, right? For just campaign number one. And then if you like it, and once the money start rolling in or sales start rolling in, we can then work on for the other campaigns, right? So yes, one Malaysia campaign. I didn't talk about it. It's just, I just want to focus on just one campaign. Hi, Bob. Do you need to sign up for domain name? Yes, Jeremy, you should and you must sign up for domain name. Most ESPs will no longer accept applications for people who use Gmail. I think MailChimp does still allow that. But the newer ones, you will need to have a valid domain names in order for even for the free account. Okay, to have a unique email address, yes. Then you basically do your email authentication with the ESP to make sure that your domain allows them to send on your behalf. All right, so that's the authentication or email authentication part. Yeah, all right. It's just obviously it is variable because it depends on the stuff you sell and depends on the number of sequence and what you need to do in the whole campaign scale. All right. So you go to the landing page. There will be a simple calendar which you can sign up, and then basically you can just book a schedule with me for 15-30 minutes. We can then discuss and brainstorm the details of your offers and how you want to do it. Even for example, because when I'm writing your ad copy, for example, I may, depending on your needs, I may even have to run the ads for you. All right. So the whole done for you is very much customized to your needs. Okay. Cool, Jeremy. Thanks so much. All right. So if you're interested, anyway, just visit this landing page or this page, the sales page. There's nothing to sell. Basically, the only thing to sell is for you to book that call, and then we can then basically decide how else I can best help you, because it's going to be October. So you have 3 more months before the year end. It is time to ramp up to make sure that you continue to hit, or at least to hit your sales target. And the best way of doing it is to run a campaign. And a campaign, not just email, but basically an entire set of components or MyLead components that you need in order to make sure your campaign is successful. All right. So with that, who to try this on my client side? Well, let me know. We can discuss this. I'm open. All right. I'm open. Because there's no cookie cutter. Unfortunately, the concept or basically the frameworks are there, but the way you execute is different. All right. So certain business, let's say B2B, the email sequence may be longer. Certain B2C product, for example, if it's simpler, your email sequence will be shorter. All right. So it all depends in regards specifically to your business. So it's customized to your business and it's unique to your business. All right. Cool. So with that, oh, not bad. We're 2 minutes past my 30 minutes timeline. So with that, thank you so much, guys. And I hope to see you again next week. If you're interested in this one campaign challenge, sign up. Let's have a chat. If I can help you, I will. If not, I will let you know too. Okay. So I'll see you again next week. Same time, 9 p.m. It's going to be 9 p.m. now. I'm pretty comfortable with this timing now. And I'll see you next week. All right. So remember to send in your questions. Let me quickly give you this before I forget. If you have questions, right, and you want basically a more detailed questions, if you can send me earlier, it allows me to prepare your answers a lot more comprehensively. And basically go to Ask Andrew Anything. It's a Google form. Fill up, send in your questions, and I'll answer them. I'll guarantee to answer them next week. All right. Cheers. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it. And I'll see you next week. Bye.